We kick off this story right in the middle of some serious beef that's been going on for years. A brutal war between the humanoid races, blessed by the god of light, and the demons who serve the god of darkness. After countless battles, a crew of heroes finally reaches the demon lord's castle, determined to end this conflict once and for all. But the journey, my friends, has already been costly. Right at the entrance to the throne room, the group is already getting their asses kicked by a female demon. Theron, one of the buddies, yells for our protag, Kyle, to keep moving while he stays behind to hold the line alone. Kyle obeys, but deep down he knows Theron isn't walking away from this one. And we all know what that means, right? Vest in the chat. They push forward into the throne room, but out of nowhere, several dark spheres rain down on Kyle. He manages to block a few, but there are too many to stop. That's when Urza throws herself in front of him, taking the hit to protect him. The spheres completely engulf her, and she's disintegrated on the spot. After Urza's death, the masked demon finally shows his face, ready for a fight to the death. Consumed by rage, Kyle charges at him like a maniac, not thinking about anything else. The demon, without even blinking, unleashes another barrage of dark spheres, and Kyle barely avoids getting fried, diving behind a pillar. But after seeing the attack's destructive power up close, a feeling of, oh, we're screwed, starts to sink in. The demon's attack is known as Elimination, an OP high-tier spell that just annihilates anything it touches. With magic that broken, Kyle realizes he can't get close enough to land a decisive blow. Left with no other option, he prepares to make an extremely dangerous gamble. He believes he can defeat the demon lord by unleashing all the energy stored in his sword's magic gem. The problem? Doing so comes at a huge cost, one that will probably take his life with it. Aware of the danger, but with nowhere to run, he decides to go all in. Releasing the sword's full power, he charges forward with a surge of strength, shattering the demon lord's defenses. With one final powerful strike, Kyle shoves his blade right through the demon's chest, obliterating the poor bastard completely. But in doing so, Kyle's sword is destroyed, and he's left gravely wounded. Even though he managed to save the world, the price was unbearable. Everyone he swore to protect is gone. His friends, his family, even his home, all wiped off the map by the demons. In the end, victory feels hollow, and for Kyle, there's nothing left but sorrow. Moments later, he collapses from his injuries, accepting death without fear. After all, there's nothing left for him in this world. But suddenly, the demon's magic gem reappears. It starts glowing uncontrollably. Now, with the demon dead, there's no one left to contain it. And if it overloads, it could wipe the entire world off the map. Despite the pain, Kyle drags himself toward the unstable artifact, determined to stop the explosion. As soon as his hand touches the gem, a blinding flash of light engulfs him. A few hours later, Kyle opens his eyes again. He's back in his bed, completely confused, because this shouldn't be happening. He gets up and heads to the window, convinced it has to be a dream. But when he looks outside, there it is. His hometown. Perfectly intact. The very same town he saw reduced to ashes by a demon attack. The sight moves him to tears, but after everything he's been through, he still struggles to believe any of it is real. At that moment, his childhood friend, Lise, walks into the room, calling out for him. The instant Kyle sees her, he's totally bugging out. Lise picks up on his odd behavior and asks if something's wrong. But he remains completely silent. Kyle still thinks this must be an illusion. But right now, he doesn't even care. He's just overjoyed to see Lise once more. Without hesitation, he hugs her. Nervous, she asks what he's doing. But Kyle is lost in the moment and doesn't answer. When she tries to break free, he holds on even tighter, until they lose their balance and tumble onto the bed together. With Kyle now on top of her, the vibe gets super awkward. And our traumatized dude looks ready to make a move. But at this point, he and Lise are not at that stage in their friendship yet. She shoves him away and lands a punch so powerful it sends him flying across the room. Now writhing in pain on the bed, Kyle hears Lise shouting at him for doing something like that without any kind of warning. She admits she's not sure what's gotten into him today, but she would have appreciated a little warning so she could be emotionally ready. Lise leaves the room angrily, forcing Kyle to reflect on his actions. As he does, he notices something unusual. He actually felt the pain from Lise's punch. And it was intense. If this were just a dream, he shouldn't have been able to feel pain at all. This makes him question whether he might actually be in the real world. Kyle stands up and pulls back the sheets, shocked to find the demon's magic gem resting there. This confirms, beyond a doubt, that he's in the real world. He goes to the mirror, studies his reflection, and notices he looks much younger than he remembers. What's more, he distinctly recalls sustaining deadly wounds in his fight with the demon lord, yet now, his body shows no signs of injury, completely unharmed. And Lise is alive. This leads him to believe that he has somehow traveled back in time. The only potential explanation being the mysterious magic item he possesses. At that moment, Kyle's stomach rumbles. He makes his way downstairs, only to be surprised by a meal waiting in the kitchen. It dawns on him that Lise must have prepared it. He sits down, fills a bowl, and takes a bite. It's been so long since he's had a proper meal. A few minutes later, Theron comes downstairs, also looking for food. But when he spots the stack of empty plates, he realizes he's too late. Kyle even polished off the entire pot of stew. As Theron grumbles, Kyle reflects on how surreal this is. Moments ago, they were fighting side by side, with Theron sacrificing himself. Now, seeing him alive feels unreal. Noticing Kyle staring, Theron asks if something's wrong. Snapping out of it, Kyle says he's fine, though he's still unsure how far back he's gone. So, he asks Theron what year it is. Theron, puzzled, tells him it's May 24th, 2823. Stunned, Kyle asks if he's sure, and Theron assures him he's not joking. Turns out, today is Kyle's birthday. So Theron lets the food incident slide. He figures he'll have to go beg Lise for something to eat, which is nothing new for him. As Theron heads off, Kyle stays in the kitchen, needing to think. If he's truly back in time, the next step is clear: he has to talk to his mom. Kyle finds her in the library. When he finally sees her, relief washes over him, yet he can't shake the haunting memory of her violent death in the future. His mother looks up, startled, since Kyle never visits the library at night. He corrects her, explaining that it's already morning. She must have lost track of time while reading. She apologizes for being buried in her books for so long, but Kyle quickly explains that's not why he's here. He admits he has a question about magic, and since she's one of the nation's rare archmages, he knew she'd be the perfect person to ask. His mother agrees to hear him out, so Kyle asks her if she knows any spells in existence that can return someone to the past. Kyle's mom responds by saying that spells like that do exist, which catches him off guard. He's never heard of any time-related magic before. She explains that while time magic is real, very little is understood about it. Even though its existence is acknowledged, no one has ever been able to use it. The reason is simple. The spell demands an unimaginable amount of magic, far more than any mage in the world could ever hope to possess. Even if the most powerful mage tried to cast the spell using every last bit of their magic, they'd barely manage to go back a single second. Kyle then asks if it would be possible to travel years into the past with the help of a magic item. After giving it some thought, his mom admits that if a magic item were used to store enough power, then time travel might actually be possible. But gathering that much energy would take more than 1,000 years, so she doubts it's a viable option. Kyle then asks if someone could use the forbidden rite, but his mother is more alarmed by the fact that he even knows about such a spell. Kyle quickly covers it up, claiming he only came across it in a book and doesn't really know the details. His mom feels relieved after hearing that. The reason she was so concerned is because the forbidden rite involves sacrificing one's life force to gain magical power, making it extremely dangerous. But even if someone were reckless enough to try it, she still believes that using time travel magic properly would be nearly impossible. Pulling off something like that would require sacrificing half the continent's humanoid population. As far as she's aware, no one is ruthless enough to commit such a horrific act. Not to mention, there isn't even a catalyst powerful enough to hold that much magical energy in existence. But if such an artifact truly existed, there would likely be records of it somewhere. She walks over to the shelf, pulls out a book and flips through its pages. After a brief search, Kyle's mom finds the relevant passage and points it out to him. It's a section detailing the legendary divine dragon's heart. Legend says the ancient kingdom of Zarls thrived for thousands of years thanks to the energy contained within the divine dragon's heart. However, once the gem's power was exhausted, the kingdom fell into decline. Kyle's mom thinks that an artifact as powerful as the dragon's heart might be capable of storing enough energy to make time travel a reality. But it's been missing for over 1,000 years, so it's possible that it has fallen into the hands of the demons by now. Kyle starts to piece together what happened, as it's evident that the gem he got from the demon lord must have been the dragon's heart. Kyle's mom appreciates that they're finally spending time together again, admitting she was worried he'd been keeping his distance. Kyle apologizes and assures her it wasn't intentional. She's not upset, though, just glad he came to visit. Still, she can't help but notice that he seems a bit more grown up than usual. Anyway, she recalls that Lise mentioned she'd be coming over to cook for them today. So, she asks Kyle if he wants to head upstairs to eat, but before she goes, Kyle admits that he already ate everything. She's taken aback at first, but then quickly collects herself and says it's fine. After all, it's his birthday. Still, since he finished all the food, that'll count as his birthday present. Talking with his mom proved to be really helpful, as Kyle learned a lot of valuable information. He now knows that the object is actually the divine dragon's heart and that the masked demon most likely embedded a time travel spell into it to send himself into the past. Still, Kyle can't figure out why the masked demon would want to go back in time in the first place. Right then, Lise approaches Kyle, and the moment he sees her, he starts apologizing for his behavior earlier that morning. He explains that it was because of a terrible nightmare. Curious, Lise asks what the dream was about. Kyle confesses that in the dream, she died, and with that, she realizes why he had hugged her so suddenly. Lise smiles and says she's willing to forgive him, knowing it wasn't really his fault. But that gentle smile only makes Kyle think about everything he's destined to lose. Their village borders the demon territory, which means that when the invasion starts, they'll be the first to face the demon's assault. The village was eventually reduced to ashes and Lise lost her life in the midst of the destruction. From that day forward, Kyle vowed to avenge her. But now, here she is, alive and well. Lise notices his sudden silence and asks if something's bothering him. But Kyle is lost in thought, knowing that if he doesn't act soon, then in 3 years he'll lose everyone he cares about all over again, and he's the only one who knows what's coming. He refuses to let history repeat itself. No matter what, he vows to change the future and protect everyone from the tragic fate that awaits them. The scene cuts, and the next day, we see our hero out in the forest, squaring up against an image of the Demon King he cooked up in his own head. He tries to dodge the imaginary attacks, but one of them clips him. The thought hits him. The Great Invasion is only 3 years away, and he's never seriously trained in this world. Wasting no time, he pops his strength and haste spells and notices they're packing way more of a punch this time. His magic power has also leveled up, and he decides to go for a full-on suicide charge against the Demon King's image. But, just as you'd expect, he gets rocked by another attack and hits the deck. He figures that even with more power, his body just can't keep up, and even a desperation move is useless. Dying now would be pointless. After all, this whole journey is about getting stronger so he can, live a long, happy, and healthy life. Meanwhile, from a distance, Theron and Lise are watching this whole thing, completely clueless. They're wondering if he's lost his marbles or something, 'cause since yesterday he's been looking like he's about to have a full-blown meltdown. Theron mentions that just 3 days ago, Kyle would have called it quits after 50 staring contests, and by the way, he never once won. Right then, Theron's mom, Layla, shows up, asking if her idiot son is managing to feed himself. Lise, holding nothing back, totally rats him out, saying he's been coming over to her place to beg for food every single day. Layla decides she'll get the full story on that later, because she's looking at Kyle wondering what kind of monster he's fighting. Even she can tell he's like a completely different person and wonders if something serious went down. Lise agrees, saying that just the other day he had dead fish eyes. Theron chimes in, remembering how his buddy's life goal was just to blow his inheritance and screw around. That's when Layla comes to a conclusion. She says only one thing can change a man overnight like this, and she's dead sure it's a woman. Liz is totally shocked by this, and with that reaction, Layla instantly realizes something's not adding up. The number one suspect just outed herself, so now she's second-guessing her own theory, while Kyle, from afar, can feel his back burning from all the stares. And well, Liz flips a switch and goes into full-on crazy ex mode, marching right up to him, furiously demanding he confess who the girl is. And he, with absolutely no clue what's happening, can only ask what the hell she's talking about. She accuses him of messing around with someone else and starts shaking him so hard the poor guy actually pukes. Later, to make up for it, she cooks him an extra nice lunch. We see Layla's eating with him too, and Kyle's mom says she's happy she's there. Since everyone's gathered, our boy takes the opportunity to ask a question. He wants to know who in this world has enough influence to sway multiple nations and change the course of history. They start listing off the possibilities, mentioning the high priests of Mother Earth Kairos have that kind of pull. Another person they point to is the great hero Randolph, the guy who defeated the Demon King in the war 300 years ago. Even the elves and dwarves would listen to him. Kyle thinks it over and concludes that, out of all the options, the only thing he can become in the next 2 years is a hero. The decision is made. He has no other choice. As he gets up to refill his plate, the others wonder what's gotten into him. But his mom doesn't see a problem with it. In fact, she thinks it's great he's thinking about his future and that they should support him. The scene changes and we see Kyle buried in books. He thinks to himself that knowing what's coming is a huge advantage and thanks his lucky stars for a good memory. Theron walks in, surprised to see him reading, and asks if he's serious about becoming a hero. Kyle confirms it and asks his friend for ideas. Theron, straight up, says that defeating the Demon King would instantly make him a hero. Kyle shoots back that if he could do that, he wouldn't be in this mess. He then asks Theron what a hero needs. His friend gives the obvious answer, strength. Our protag agrees but says strength alone isn't enough. Intrigued, Theron asks what else is needed. Our guy Kyle starts the list. First, money. A hero doesn't take rewards, but traveling and adventuring are expensive as hell. His friend agrees. Second, connections. Getting special treatment from the rich and famous naturally boosts your own rep. Theron's already starting to think this sounds a little shady. Kyle then reveals that most things in this world can be solved with money and connections. However, sometimes even that's not enough, because a hero also needs luck. He explains that a hero has to be in the right place at the right time when disaster strikes. That's when they step in and save the day. Basically, guys, where there are tears, someone's selling tissues. Theron asks if he's planning on creating problems just so he can solve them. Kyle denies it, saying that even though that's basically capitalism 101, he's not gonna do it. Still, he affirms that he'll use any means necessary to become a hero and doesn't care if his methods are underhanded. Theron finds it weird to hear that from an aspiring hero and asks why he wants it so bad, since it doesn't seem like his end goal. Our protag just says he has his reasons, but for now, Theron will have to trust him. And hey, his friend gets it and leaves. Kyle then starts mapping out a plan. To get funds, he needs to meet that person again. For fame, he can do something about the Arkhen incident, though he'll be cutting it close. Next, we see him telling Layla he's going on a journey. She asks if he's told Soraya, his mom, and he says yeah, and that she cried a little. Layla asks if he also told Lauer, but he goes silent. She says it's good for him to see the world and suggests he take Theron with him, saying he'd make a great meat shield. Kyle is happy for the permission and plays along with the joke, saying he was going to take him anyway, but to use him as a sacrificial pawn. Theron, hearing all this, is justifiably pissed. The next stop is to tell Liz. He says he's leaving in 2 days, and right on cue, she says she's coming with him. He tells her the first stop is the royal capital, Malad, to get what he needs, and only then will the real work begin. She insists on going, but he refuses. She is not happy about this, especially since he's taking Theron. She reminds him she trains with the Oracle Warriors and won't get in his way. He argues that her mom wouldn't want her in danger. She shoots back that, in that case, she'll just apologize at her grave later. He then says he also wants her to stay somewhere safe. And before she can reply, he shuts her up with a kiss. And wchoe, that one caught your narrator completely off guard. All I can say is damn, and then damn again. He promises she'll be the first person he comes to see when he gets back, and now she's speechless. All she asks is for him to promise he'll return safely. He promises he won't do anything reckless and gives her a hug. The scene shifts to the city, where they're shopping. They spot an elf, and Kyle recognizes her. It's Urza. He moves toward her in a trance, remembering a night they spent together when she revealed her true name, Excess. Without thinking, he calls her by that name, and she instantly gets defensive. He realizes the massive screw-up he just made. After all, in this world, this is their first time meeting. She tries to attack him, but he stops her, thinking he can't cause a scene here. Using her true name, he uses a power that puts her to sleep and remembers she did mention she'd been to Ramar's before. Lise, seeing them so close, is furious. She can't believe that right after kissing her, he's already making a move on another woman. She decides she can't leave him alone and is coming with them on the trip. Back at his house, Urza wakes up and demands to know how he knows her true name. He thinks to himself he can't exactly tell her that 4 years from now, they're going to fall in love and she'll tell him herself. She says that normally she'd have to kill him to keep him quiet. He just replies that he'll tell her everything eventually. She asks if he even understands how important an elf's true name is. He says he does, but he can't let her kill him. He suggests an alternative, using a contract spell to prevent him from using her name for evil. She's shocked he even knows about that. Lise, on the other hand, has no idea what they're talking about. He explains that contracts are usually for spirits, but in the name of the gods, elementalists can give their true name to bind a human. He lays out the terms. He won't give her true name to anyone or use it with ill will. She asks if he knows what happens to those who break the contract. He knows, he'll kick the bucket. Since she sees he's serious, she agrees to it. She warns him she can only forge the contract under a full moon, and the next one is 2 weeks away. They'd have to stay in town till then, but he shocks her by saying he's leaving tomorrow. And just like that, the next day Kyle and his friends leave. His mother worries, but Lise tells her not to, saying she'll take care of him. Kyle's father tells him to watch out for his friends and is surprised to see him there. Man, that's what you call a present father. Kyle tells them both to take care and they head out. Urza, having no other choice, tags along. Lise notices they're heading in the opposite direction of the capital. He explains that now that Urza the Elementalist has joined the party, the capital can wait. Their first destination is the Sungard Mountains, and he asks if they know the legend. Lise remembers the story of the ancient magic kingdom of Zarls, and Theron asks if it's about the Magic King's labyrinth. He says the labyrinth is just a legend, but Kyle whips out a map of the place, which even points to the treasure room. They think it's a fake and he got scammed, but Urza inspects the map and sees it's made from a 1,000-year-old magic tree using long-lost technology. In other words, there's no fucking way that thing is a fake. Theron and Lise decide to believe her, and he grumbles that they're jerks. Lise sees how massive the place is and asks how long it'll take to conquer it. He tells them not to worry, cause he's got a plan. The plan is to dig. Next thing you know, the group is digging a tunnel straight to the treasure room. Theron asks why they're doing this, and Kyle explains the labyrinth is huge, full of traps and magical robot weapons. This way they bypass all of it. The visionary is a genius, you can't deny it. Theron gets suspicious, asking how he knows all that since it's not on the map. Kyle thinks to himself, cause they gave me so much trouble last time. Still, he warns that even if it's a legend, they have to be on their guard. Kyle reflects that he never thought his first job as a hero would be digging a tunnel. Urza agrees and complains, asking why they're making her use a spirit just to dig. Kyle says it's saving them the cost of magical equipment. Theron keeps digging, but she stops him, warning that she hasn't reinforced the wall there yet. She asks Kyle to use Detect Magic to confirm the treasure's location. Theron remarks she seems the most into this whole thing. Kyle says it's cause she's the serious type. She then tells them to move their hands, not their mouths. At night, we see the group chowing down on a meal made by Lise, and everyone's loving it. Urza asks if she caught the bear herself. She confirms it. The elf, curious, asks if she used a trap. But the redhead says nope, she took it down with her bare hands. Later, the two girls are taking a bath together in a tub Urza made with a water spirit. She says she figured out the trick for long journeys. Lise gets a little jealous, saying magic is nifty and that she can't use it. Urza replies that taking down a bear with your bare hands is already impressive enough and asks if she got so strong for Kyle. Lise says yes, but she also felt she needed to do it for herself. She tells Urza not to worry too much about her true name, cause she's sure Kyle would never do anything to make them cry. She knows he's hiding something, but she's going to wait until he wants to tell them himself. Urza gets it. Lise then says she'll take responsibility if he ever tries to hurt her. Suddenly, she notices Urza has a heart-shaped birthmark on her butt, and the elf gets super embarrassed. Meanwhile, Theron is trying to sneak a peek at the girls, but Kyle is doing his best to stop him. Time passes, and the digging is almost done. Urza asks Kyle where Theron is, and he says he's out on a break. She takes the chance to ask him why he really wants to be a hero. She says Theron and Lise aren't prying because they trust him, but she's different. She notices the rings on his hands and says she knows they're for training. Realizing she's caught on, he explains that each one increases his weight by 2 or 3 times and that he's working on his physical fitness. She wonders why he's pushing himself so hard and if it's connected to him knowing her true name. Before he can answer, he breaks through the labyrinth wall. He calls over Theron and Lise, and they step into the treasure room, met with a massive pile of gold and jewels. Theron goes absolutely nuts with greed, playing with the money and thinking he'll never have to work again. But Kyle warns the girls to keep their wits about them, or they'll end up just like him. They have no desire to be that disgraceful. While they're all distracted, Kyle slips away to another room and finds the sword he used in the future. The spirit of the sword speaks to him, impressed that a human made it this far. And she's got a snaggletooth, guys. A snaggletooth is a clear sign of trouble. And on that note, the episode ends, and now we have to wait a week to see how this story continues. So, do you guys want to see this story continue on the channel? Then let me know in the comments that you want more, smash that like button to boost the hype, and subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss a thing.